To my world, Tillamook, Oregon currently. As some of y'all know, the school I went to in Nebraska was, it's Chapel, Nebraska. You could look the place up, look up Chapel, Nebraska, KKK. There's two P's and two L's in Chapel. So I'm well versed in racism. I'm well versed in anti-Semitism. I also don't fit in there, and I don't fit in here. Not sure if you noticed, I have a really, really big mouth, and I'm not a very big guy. See, a lot of folks want to tell me how tough they are because they beat this person up and they beat that person up. Tough ain't a matter of being able to beat somebody up. It's what kind of punishment can you take and keep on ticking. And I was able to show a lady today some evidence. Actual hospital evidence. Seems to me there's an awful lot of officers who took me to hospitals trying to get me rubber stamped, and it didn't work. The hospital staff were not willing to do it. The police officers went out of their way not to investigate themselves and to have me harmed repeatedly by strategically lying on court documents, omitting information, and outright manufacturing information. If you have to manufacture it, it's not information, it's a goddamn lie. It's slander. And when you do it on a court document, especially as a so-called professional, you done fucked yourself. They also took a look at the medications that I was put on. It was highly inappropriate. We also looked at the side effects of it. We also looked at the fact that the doctors said that they never actually saw me. They never actually heard me threatening to kill myself or harm anyone else. But what did the police officers claim on paper that was used against me in court? She was really into that. That's one thing about us 1980s kids. We grew up thinking well, you guys are busy trying to figure out how to be the most offensive. You know, it was us in the 1980s that got to have cool stuff in the classroom. Like, all right, I had a nerdy teacher once. She got some chicken wire, and she got a whole bunch of colored napkins. And we turned our entire classroom into a rainforest. Yep, the whole save the rainforest thing by wasting a bunch of dead trees. But you know what? Our classroom was beautiful. There was no other classroom in the whole school that had its own tree in the center of class. Kind of like the Rose Parade. Except roses fall apart, they get old and they wilt. Napkins, well, it's in an indoor environment. It's not getting wet. It stays pretty. It just fades a little bit depending on how much sunlight it gets. And that actually can create a cool effect. I remember my teacher, part of the tree was starting to get white on top. So what she did is she pulled out all the stuff on that side, and then she pulled out rose on what was the brown trunk. And then she started interspersing those intermittently and basically making rows of faded napkins. And it kind of made it look like textured bark. Being in special ed had its perks sometimes. But we were taught actual critical thinking. Our life wasn't surrounded by who's going to be the next gangster rapper. Now, a lot of us went to the dark side in the 90s. Tough not to do. I was in Washington State when the rock rap wars started, and that's part of history don't nobody in America talk about. See, back in the 90s, we had a major issue with people killing each other over music. How dare you listen to rap? You must be out to destroy the world. How dare you listen to rock? You must hate black people. And music was seriously used as a diss, as an insult, as an excuse. The 90s were brutal. I was also, like I said, in Washington State in the 90s. The heroin hit the streets in the 90s, 1993, matter of fact. Real bad, real heavy. It didn't actually hit Boulder, Colorado until 2003. That's not to say you couldn't get it. That's not to say it wasn't there. I mean, Boulder's a college town. You get about any kind of drug you want. You just gotta know who to go to. A lot of people in Boulder, unfortunately, didn't realize that they were getting their methamphetamines from a pedophile named Ted Bollinger. If you live in Boulder, Colorado, remember that name. Matter of fact, I remind.
Hey, this is Kevin. I was upstairs.
That lady's privacy. Now, it's one thing when you're telling a story and people are just blowing it off. When you start showing them evidence and they start realizing how important that is, like their gears start turning. And that's why I ask people to come take a look in person. They took me out to storage. I had 2 people out there with me. They were patient with me because even though I walk pretty good, I can glide all right. I can't go upstairs worth crap. When people are threatening to kill me or assaulting me, and I go and tell somebody, they tend to blow me off, think it's no big thing. However, when they see the video of me being assaulted, they go, hey man, you should have gone to the police. Yeah, don't I know it? You can't go to the police as a homeless man. Being broke is bad enough, being born a male is bad enough. You must be the bad guy, so there's no reason for you to call the cops. And that's kind of how it's treated. How dare we become a burden on society? How dare we allow ourselves to be a burden on the police? How dare we become a burden on our friends or family by asking for help when we need it? Seems to me I had a lot of friends and family had expectations. I did not fulfill those expectations. I did not fulfill those expectations, but none of us can. You know, there's plenty of people out there whose mommies and daddies want them to be a doctor or a lawyer, but they're dumb as a stump. So they wasn't ever going to be a doctor or a lawyer. I'm in trouble.
Like I'm quack, quack, turning into a bird.
Now when I show people something real prolific like that, you tend to dwell on just that one part and you realize how important that one part is. You go, man, that'll change everything. I'm like, oh, you ain't seen nothing yet. Oh, cool. When it comes to preventing abuse against at-risk adults, you have to realize what risks there are and why. When a police officer takes you to a hospital and tells the hospital that you're schizophrenic, and the hospital staff say they didn't see any schizophrenic behaviors, well, those officers are breaking the law if they write down anything but that. Police tried telling them that I was schizophrenic, and repeatedly, this is what's called getting a red stamp. Sorry, rubber stamp. A rubber stamp is when you, let's say, you know, a particular judge will sign literally anything that you ask him to as a police officer. You're going to try going to that judge if you want to use the law to harm your neighbor because you don't like his dog shitting on your yard. You can't prove it's him. You put up cameras and everything and the dogs stop, but you still don't like the neighbor. Why not just abuse your position of power just this once? Nobody's gonna catch it. Dude next door is alone. He's broke. His house is falling apart and it's unsightly and you just don't fucking like him. Now let's say you've got a doctor that you can go to that'll do that. Or of course, the state has a whole slew of rubber stamps in Boulder, Colorado. Much like Tillamook, everybody there is a rubber stamp if you try telling on bad cops. And all cops are bad when you're broke. I am real glad I got to show them what's in my storage facility so they have a small grasp of the reality of it. She also said that her and her husband both watch my channel and they know what a filthy asshole I am and they understand why I do it. I'm going to end this video. I did show them what I used to do for a living. I got to show a couple of pictures I drew. Although it's hard to impress people who were alive in the 80s because we had a lot of people who had a lot of spare time on their hands. They honed skills. Do you know why? There was nothing else to do. TV had 3 stations, 2.5. One of those stations was like a public access type of station, and it was only on half the time, and it depended on where you lived. They may not have something on that you give a shit about. I remember Channel 2 and Blinky's Fun Club. Yep, that was Colorado in the 80s. I was not an artist in the 80s. I read too much to have time for drawing. I wrote too much to have time for drawing. I was too busy building stuff out of Legos and Lincoln Logs. Yeah, I had more than one teacher say, yeah, he's not exactly social, but he does like to share the Lincoln Logs. A lot of times, the kids just want to run around and play like that, and Sean will pull out the Lincoln Logs. 5 or 6 kids will pull over and start playing with Lincoln Logs. Well, yeah, they're fucking Lincoln Logs. They're not cool until you start playing with them. Until then, they're just sticks on a shelf. Anyway, they do understand the safety issues to some degree. They also took a look at the medications that I was put on and didn't understand why I was put on those medications. Well, most people would look at it like that and go, yeah, there's something screwy here. Anyway, she read it and she said, well, it says in here that the cops are trying to call you schizophrenic and that the hospital staff did not agree. That they didn't see any of this stuff that the officers are claiming. That's pretty significant. She's also like, they served you with a protection order while you were all fucked up on that? I'm like, apparently. But that's what happens when you literally have to do desperate shit to try to get the cops to do their jobs because none of your friends or family members want to take it seriously. Then later on, when they realize that they should have, they all want to backtrack and hide because they were fucking shitty friends. Poor you. Don't be a fucking dumbass. You won't get busted. I have an IQ of 172. That's pretty significant. It's just a good thing that I focused my attention on the save the rainforest bullshit and the preservation of human life bullshit. Basically all the bullshit that all of you laugh at, make a big joke about. God bless America. Good to be radio. Thanks for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper. And your sister's too. And no victim left behind.